Okay, so here's the question. Could one of the greatest cinematographers that's ever actually lived, could he actually be wrong about something? It's an interesting question. And what I'm talking about is the great, amazing Roger Deakins. And I've been thinking a lot about Deakins lately. He's one of those guys that if you are a shooter, is going to become one of your idols very, very quickly. But one thing you don't ever hear him employ a lot is the three-point lighting system. As a matter of fact, I even saw an interview once where Deakins even said he never uses three-point lighting system. That's not the way he works. And I found this a very, very interesting thing to see a master of light who doesn't employ traditional three-point light. So what I wanted to do today was to actually take one of Deakins' most famous types of lighting, the Cove Lighting system, which he's renowned for, and I wanted to see what happens when you take his Cove Lighting system and put it up against a traditional three-point lighting system. Oh, and if you find this interesting, please do me a favor and please subscribe. It makes a huge difference in being able to keep this channel going and keeping on making content like this. Let's go ahead. I'm going to set some stuff up. Let's see what we can do when we put the Cove Lighting system up against a three-point lighting system. All right, let's go. Okay, so now I'm in the garage. We're going to look at the basic Cove light and how I built it before we get into what it actually looks like. And this is important when you're building a Cove light. You need to kind of know what you're getting into. And if you look behind me, I have the basic Cove light right here. And as you can see, the big thing is it doesn't take much. It's basically 3 light stands. But the thing is, I have it in a bit of a curved setting. Now, if I come around, what you're going to see here is you're going to see this is what my Cove light setting will look like from the other side. And trip over my bags there, which is always a good thing. But as you can see here, I've basically just got the curved light and I have 3 lights. I have an Amaran 200X, I have an Amaran 60X, and then I have a Weelight K21 tube light here. And these 3 lights are going to bounce into this very, very big light source, and that's what's going to give me the basis for my Cove light. You'll also notice I do have a flag right here, and that flag is basically going to try and control some of the light that's going to spill on the wall behind me. Okay, so that's basically how you put it together. Now let's go ahead and sit down and take a look at what it looks like once we go ahead and start cutting on the lights. Okay, so here I am now in a Cove light setting with it all set up, all the lights up and rolling. And what I want to do now is, in order to break down exactly how this Cove light setting works that Deakins has made so popular, I want to go ahead and break this down light by light, because essentially a 3 light setup that we have set up here that makes all the difference. So what I'm going to do, instead of looking at the camera for this, I'm going to kind of look just off camera just like this, because this is a little more natural in what this lighting design is breaking up for. So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and just break down all the lights. And as you can see right away when I start off, just so you know, I do have a little bit of a kicker on me that I have brought in because I am comparing this 3-point light, and I just want to have a little bit of a background light just to separate me from the background. This is pretty much universal, and it's not so much with the key light, so I did want to have that on there. Now the first thing I want to do is I am going to go ahead and cut on my first light over there on the end. And one thing you'll see here is that light, the way I've designed it, I have an Amaran 200X. It's a much punchy, I have a punchy light there. That's my punchy light. I'm just punching in, it's pretty much bare. And you can see it gives me a nice hard shape. I also have a very hard line because I do have this line in the Cove light setting really set up basically almost completely perpendicular to me. It's right to my side there as it's running along. That's what I get. Now what I really want to do now is I want to come back, I want to bring in the 60X, which I have a more diffuse bulb on there. And what I want to do is I want to bring that up, and what it's going to do, it's going to provide much more wrap around on my face. You can see right there the difference that does. It really fills in that level. And if I feel that's too strong, if I feel that's too much, I'll just go ahead, maybe I'll just dial it down just a hair. So it's a little more natural and feels a little good. And I even feel like if I come back over here to my first one, I feel like this side of the light's a little bit too strong. So I'm going to come down, I'll pop that down just a little bit more, just to make that feel a little more. Let's bring that down. There you go, it feels a little more relaxed. And now I have one more light to pop out, and that is my Weelight tube light that I have there, that I have a softer 1-foot tube there. And you will see now that it just brings in just a little more life on there. And one good way to see what this third light is, this third light is really a subtle light that we should have. It shouldn't be too much. It should be very subtle. If I cut off these other lights, you can see it's a very, very subtle light there. Should not be very much. A lot of times you're just adding a little bit of glow and maybe just get a little bit of fill in there based on your touch. One more note about how I did get these lights. I did decide to make all of my lights pointing down so the light bounces down at me. But in Cove Lighting, it's actually very acceptable too to have the lights bouncing from the ground up and having the light come up like that. Just kind of depends on your preference and style. I like this going down, so that's what I'm going for right now. Now that we've sat there and gotten a chance to test out this Cove light setting that Deakins has made so popular, let's go ahead, take this exact same setting, look at it in a 3-point lighting, and see how that compares visually to our Cove lighting. Okay, so here we are now in a classic 3-point light setup. And as you can see, I have got a giant 60-inch softbox just off camera left that is my main source of key light. I've got a big giant fill bounce card here giving me fill on the fill side. And I've got, just so you know, I've still got that same exact backlight there giving me the traditional 3-point light system. And you're gonna notice a couple things right off the bat that's different between this traditional 3-point light system and the Deakins Cove lighting method. Really the first thing that should strike out to you right away is going to be the warmth and color difference in the light. And the main reason for that, these lights are all set to the exact same color temperature. I made sure not to adjust any Kelvin temperature in the lights or camera whatsoever. But what you're seeing here is here you have a 5600 Kelvin light that's punching through 2 layers of diffusion fabric. However, in the Cove lighting, we are using that classic bleach muslin, which is a much warmer tone. So you're gonna immediately see a difference in the warmth on your subject. Now, if I look here, that's not necessarily a good or bad thing, it's a subjective thing. A lot of people, though, do like that warm touch you get from the bleach muslin for human characters. It has that kind of tungsten vibe to it, and a lot of people like it because it adds a little level of warmth and romance to the shoot. The other thing you're going to notice is because I am using this in a softbox type setting, one, I'm able to put a grid on it, which is very important, and because it has a softbox, I'm able to control the light a lot more. One of the things about a Cove lighting system, which I really didn't have time to set up and do, is you do need to bring out a lot of flags to control how the light contaminates the background. You can see I have much more control on this light and what it's doing in the background here. So this lighting setup does give me a lot more of quick light control and spill versus the Cove lighting. That being said, you can still use flags and stuff to control the spill on a Cove lighting, but this setting is probably going to get there a little bit faster if you're doing a run and gun interview and have to go. Traditional 3-point lighting is going to be great. Now, if you look at the lighting quality, the light looks fantastic. I've used this light setup on many, many professional interviews. I'm going to stare off camera just so you can kind of see exactly how it goes. And you know, you really do. You get a nice punchy light on this side of my face. And look, we're coming around. We're getting just that. If I'm staring kind of more like this, we get this nice little Rembrandt triangle here, which is really good. A really nice wrap. And the good news is with the fill, I can control a lot of what this fill is just by moving it around. So for instance, if I take this fill, I'm just going to move it around, you can instantly see how much more contrast I can introduce on my face just by moving my fill, my bounce fill. If I want to bring it back, I can make it a little more subtle, something like that, or I can push it out and really make it a little more brighter. I can pull it further away, I can bring it closer. It doesn't matter. The key is I can use those things to start to control my lighting ratios. So it's really, really interesting now to see this as our 3-point lighting setup versus the Cove lighting setup that we just set up. And now that we talked about this, I want to really dive deeper into the Cove lighting versus this and why the Cove lighting may be slightly superior. Let's go check it out. Okay, and now I'm back here in my Cove lighting setup again, and it's really nice seeing how a face works on that traditional 3-point light setup versus this Deakins Cove lighting that I've got set up here. And really what I want to do now that we've seen it, I want to show you where I think Deakins is such a master, why he's a master, and why the Cove lighting gives you that ultimate level of cinematic quality. And really what it really comes down to this is the Cove light system that was pioneered by Deakins gives you an unparalleled level of precision in your lightings. And that, if you're someone that lights, is something you're going to want to have access to. I want to show you an example of that right now. So check this out. This is really where I think we have this incredible shaping potential from this thing. I'm going to go ahead and just cut off my light there. Now, as you can see, even as you see here, I've got a really nice, soft quality. I've got this big light source. The quality is really nice. But when I add that third little light in there, it just gives me this nice bit of shaping and sculpting to my face. Look at it. Cut it off again. Oh, let me turn that back down. Hit the wrong button, didn't I? You see how it just adds that really nice bit of shape, and I got a little too hot. I'm gonna pull it down closer, something like this. And I just really love that level of precision that you got. Now it's important to remember, you gotta keep your background blacked off when you got this. It's a little more troublesome, but you just get this level of control. If I come here to my second fill here, which really does a lot of the work, you can see I could have this thing, which is a little more neutral. I could pull it back down and bring in a little bit more of a moody type look, or I could really bring it back up and make it more of a high key. Maybe I want to have a comedy or something's bright and happy. Hey, it's just like that. And look at this. This is literally happening in seconds. It's just about controlling the level of film. Because I can have these LED lights where I can control the lighting situation, I can really change the mood just like that. It's really, really incredible. And this is why I really think the Cove Lighting is such a powerful system. So really in conclusion, when we're talking about Deakins and his Cove Light system, of course Roger Deakins is right. He's one of the greatest cinematographers that have ever lived. And I think there's another important part of this too. I know I said this, could Deakins be wrong about the Cove Lighting versus traditional 3-point lighting? But you have to remember one of the great things about Roger Deakins in the first place. Roger Deakins is not dogmatic. If you study him, he is literally a guy that walks in a room and lights the best way possible. He doesn't care why. He doesn't always light with Cove Lighting. He doesn't always light bouncing off walls. He doesn't always light in bleach muslin. He's a creative man that changes his scene based on the story and what he's trying to say with the light. And I think it's a great lesson for all of us is to keep that flexibility in there. Now that being said, you can really see just how flexible and powerful Cove Lighting is. And if it's not something you haven't incorporated in your set, you really should. I mean, it's literally a cheap piece of cloth, a couple of A-clamps, you put it up on lights, and you're ready to roll. It's a great source to get you a really, really nice, beautiful light source that looks professional. And even more important than that, it gives you more room and flexibility to play with. Anyway, guys, I would love to hear what you have to say about this. Please leave me any comments down below. And yeah, go out there, keep on shooting, and yeah, talk to you soon.